Welcome to the Ride and Inspire Rawcast, episode 2. Just as a reminder, or if you're new here, it's called a Rawcast because I'm out in the woods taking my creativity walk and sharing some thoughts with you, which I believe are inspirational. Today, my topic is 2 errors that I committed when I started mountain biking that now I'm super grateful for because I learned so much from these 2 errors. And I believe there's a huge takeaway for you too. So error number 1 was that I kept comparing myself to others and that I kept blaming myself for being the slowest rider. So now I've been a full-time mountain bike coach, training all levels of riders and even instructors for over 12 years. And back then, when I started, I was the biggest scaredy cat. Why is this? Well, when I started, I had an instructor who said, "Speed is your friend. Don't worry, I'm gonna make an entire episode on speed is your friend another day." But he said, "Speed is your friend, follow my line, follow my speed, just let it roll and you'll be fine." So this was, I think, day 3 or 4 on the bike, and I didn't have any skills whatsoever. I went over my handlebars at pretty high speed because I was following his speed, detonated into a big rock with my face, and I literally looked like someone had beaten me for days. I was hurt, well, both mentally and physically, and this crash made me to one of the, I'd say, one of the most over-careful riders and one of the most fearful riders that I've met in my life. Well, after that, I was still out with friends riding, but I was super scared. Literally one little rock on the trail, I would get off my bike, I would walk my bike, and then the negative self-talk would start. Why are they all better than me? Why can't you ride as fast as them? Why are you holding everyone up? Why are you even out here riding on the trails? Everyone's waiting for you. You're such a loser. So all these negative self-talk, well, all this negative self-talk, it just kept going on and on and on in my head. And I was out there in my free time on my bike, riding with friends, just feeling crap. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, maybe it has, but I was comparing my day 4 or my day 5, including a trauma, to their day 1000. So I was comparing my weaknesses to their strengths, which is generally not a thing we should be doing. Nowadays, I'm a psychological counselor, I'm a graduate mental trainer, and I'm a coach, and I know that my fears were 100% legitimate. So I didn't have the skills. Of course I'm going to feel fearful. I didn't have any of the prerequisites to ride at the speed that guy told me to ride. Of course I'm going to be scared. But I had the mindset of blame. I had the mindset of self-destruction, of not being worthy. And that negative self-talk, if you ever have that, do yourself a favor. This is what helped me. Write it down. Write all those things down on a sheet of paper that you're saying to yourself. And then look at them and be honest. Would you say any of that to a friend? Would you say any of that into the face of a person you appreciate? And if the answer is no, then ask yourself, why do you deserve it? Why do you deserve to say these things to yourself if no other person, and especially not people you appreciate, deserve it? So through mountain biking and through this negative self-talk I had and through that crash, I learned that self-appreciation is a process and it takes work. I started working on this, and I cannot share with you how my life has changed since I've been doing that. Through self-appreciation, everything else falls into place. Once you appreciate yourself, you start to see the world through the eyes of a person who appreciates things. And how do you think will the world present itself to a person who appreciates things? Right? It's going to show you its beauty. So once you start working with those things, really, literally do it. Write it down. look at those things. Would you say that to a friend? And if not, change the sentences. And every time you fall into that negative self-talk trap, time out, stop it, change the sentences, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. So that was my learning number one when I was a beginner, that I hope inspires you to look at that. Or if you're not a person who does that, then kudos to you. Wow, well done. But maybe you'll meet someone one day who this may help. Error number two that I committed was thinking in categories of right and wrong. So when I started riding, I had a few instructors who told me this is the only way to ride and everything else is wrong. Your elbows need to be way out. It's called the gorilla. It's the way you ride. You need to do that. So I did that for years. And then at some point, my shoulders started hurting. And that's the biggest learning whatsoever that I took from there. You should never think in pure black and white categories. Although you should never is also a black and white category, so I'm sure there are exceptions to this. But when it comes to mountain biking, and especially mountain biking skills, why should there be one right thing or one right way to do things and everything else is wrong? You know, we are all individuals. You have a totally different history than I do. That's why it's called his story, because it's his story. It's not yours. So once you've understood that you are unique and you're beautiful because you're unique, and find a coach that works with you to find solutions for you, that's when you'll start to really enjoy mountain biking. Because there are no one-fits-all answers. And for example, elbows out, if you over-exaggerate the elbows out, you're actually doing yourself harm. I have a YouTube video about this. I'm going to link this below in the show notes. If you want to go into that, it's with a doctor of physiotherapy, Liz, who talks more about it. And you'll see that is like in everything in life, there's too much of something that is never good. So in other words, too much of anything is never good. No matter how good this thing is, too much of it is never good. So my learning definitely was to listen to my body. If something doesn't feel good, then look into it. Don't think in categories of right and wrong, because that's an ego category. Ego category means that you think you're better than someone else because you do something, because you have something, because you own something. And ego categories don't go hand in hand with love categories. You either do something out of ego or you do it out of soul purposes. So anything in life you do is either motivated by the ego or motivated by the soul. And your ego thinks in right and wrong. Your ego thinks in I'm better, you're less than me. I'm good because I own this. I'm great because I can do this skill. That's ego categories. And soul categories or love categories are that I love this and that's why it's great. You love this, that's why it's great. I'm listening to my body, I'm feeling good. That's why it's good for me. That's a soul category. So my learning through mountain biking was definitely listen to myself, don't fall into the trap of ego categories. And that's when I started evolving as a coach. And that's when I started evolving as a rider. And that's why I will hopefully never stop evolving. So that's all for me from today. No, that's all from me for today. For today's Rawcast, I'm at the Côte d'Azur, which is France, on the way to the Eurobike, walking through beautiful pine woods. So you may have heard my steps, you may have heard birds, you may have heard the wind rustling. Just imagine we were on a talk together. I hope I brought you value, and I would love to have your comments. So just reach out to me over social media or comment below the episode or give me a rating on Apple Podcasts. Sending you much love. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.